Hello, and welcome to another edition of What's Up Podcast with Ryan Bellamore. This is Ryan Bellamore. We are bringing you a great conversation today. Today's conversation will be with John Longley, crew member of Australia 2, a 5-time America's Cup competitor, as well as one of the most interesting man in the world. Longley has been involved with sailing in the sea almost all of his life. He started sailing as a young boy in dinghies on the Swan River in Perth, Western Australia, then graduating to ocean racing in Australia, later on in Europe and America, including the transatlantic race. This led to a long involvement with the America's Cup, which saw him sailing as a crew member in 5 consecutive America's Cup campaigns from 1974 to 1987. In 1980, he became a professional sailor and accepted the full-time role as project manager for the America's Cup Challenge in 1983. Besides the managerial role, he also sailed as a member of the crew on Australia 2 during his historic win in Newport. It was the first time in 132 years that a country other than the USA had won the Cup, and in this best-of-7 race series, Australia 2 came from 1-3 down and from behind in the final race to win 4-3. Longley went on to serve as general manager of the America's Cup Defence in Fremantle, Western Australia in 1987. Later contributed to the America's Cup by participating in the development of the America's Cup class. Was then contracted by Bond Corporation to initiate the Endeavour Replica project and saw that project to the finish. He served as the CEO of the Fremantle Chamber of Commerce, went on to serve as the event director of the ISAF World Sailing Championship, and later served as the chair of the Daikin Foundation, and much more. I'm telling you, one of the most interesting. I could talk to him for hours. And I think I did, and we only recorded about half of it. Among his many accolades and experience, which you can read about on whatsupnoop.com, Longley was inducted into the America's Cup Hall of Fame in Bristol, Rhode Island in 2009. For this podcast, Longley and I sit down for a chat. I gave him a call. He said, let's meet at Little Creatures Brewing in Fremantle, Western Australia. I met him there. It is now a brewery. It started out as a place where Kookaburra, the America's Cup sailing boat, was held during the 87 America's Cup races. It was then turned into an alligator farm. You'll hear a little bit about that. We met there, so you'll hear a crowd in the background. You'll also hear us ordering lunch as well as drinks. It's a no-holds-barred interview where we start and go over his memories of Newport, that 1983 America's Cup win, the Endeavour Replica project, what his thoughts are on the Endeavour possibly being found off of Newport, a possible Netflix documentary coming out on Australia 2, and much more. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Mr. John Longley.
Fremantle and Newport have got so much in common, there's a similar vibe. And
they certainly do. I actually emailed back to one of the city council members and asked if we had ever looked at creating a sister city program in Fremantle. And she said that somebody had tried to. It's very similar.
So I first went to Newport, to show you how old I am, in 1971. And I was sailing with Alan Bond, who decided to take his yacht Apollo, and we were going to do the Newport to Bermuda race. And we did that. We were down at the Mamaroneck in New York, which is where the boat was delivered and got this mast put up and all that. And then they did a Block Island race, which goes around Block Island and comes into Newport. So that was the first time I entered, so I arrived there for the first time by sea. And it was cold, as you can imagine. It was very, very early in the season. And we tied up against the Christie's bar, which I suppose, I don't know if it's still there or not.
It's 41 North now.
Is it? Well, anyway, I walked into the bar with my mate, Doc Phillips, and another mate. We were so cold, our crappy West Australian bloody oilskins and so forth. And I walked up to the bar, and I came across American hospitality, like for the first time in my life, really. Where I sat down, and this bloke came up and looked at me and said, "You blokes look cold, right?" So don't move, we'll sort you out. And they whacked in front of us these big Irish whiskies, warm. And we had an amazing relationship with that bar over all the years that we went back over there.
There's still a bar called Christie's in Newport.
Is there?
But it's moved a little bit away. Certainly completely different than what you remember.
Yeah, well,
so your first time there was in 71.
71. Then I went back for the... Went back for the...
I'll be back.
Thank you.
For the... what's this going on there? So I went back...
74?
74. Yeah, I didn't go after that for 74. And then 77, 80, 87.
Obviously 83.
80, sorry, not 87. 83. 83. And then I was asked to, after 87, I was asked to build the Endeavour. And I went back there in the very early days to go and do some research there at the Newport Maritime Museum. And then I went back after we built the ship. We took the ship there in 1998, I think. And we were there at the Iris for 9 days with Elizabeth Meyer. So that was amazing. I'll never forget sailing. She owned the J-boat Endeavour in those days.
Yeah.
And she took me out for a sail on the up underneath the bridge. I remember sailing the Endeavour, 12 knots, dead smooth water, steering it with 2 fingers. 140-foot yacht. Amazing. And then I went back again a couple of other times just because I was whenever I was sort of in America, if there was an opportunity, I'd just flip up there to just have another bit of a Newport fix and go forth. So I love the place.
It certainly holds a pretty special place in your heart.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you add it all up, I'd spend over 2 years in Newport.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy.
It's a great space, and I see a lot of Rhode Island, a lot of Newport in Fremantle, coming up from Adelaide and landing here and seeing this city. It reminds me of the fishing, the sailing.
That's right.
A lot of it growth and a lot of it started to slow down was because of the America's Cup.
Yeah. The heritage, component. I mean, when I was doing the America's Cup in 1983, we stayed in a little wooden double-story terrace house down there near Thames, just off Thames Street. Was it Lonsdale Street? Can't remember now. Anyway, no, it wasn't Lonsdale. It was something like anyway, I can't remember now.
Yeah.
But it was just up there, and the house had a plaque on it. It was sort of 17 something or other. It was a very old wooden house. When I came back here, earlier I tried to buy a house here after 74 America's Cup, and I wanted to buy a little wooden house around in South Fremantle. I went to the bank. The bank wouldn't lend me the money. And they said, nah, why not? I said, why not? They said, well, it's a depressed area. It's a blighted area. I said, what do you mean? It's near the sea. They said, well, it's near a rubbish tip, a foundry, and an abattoir. I said, yeah, but it's near the sea. Because I'd been sailing in my life, I had no money. And anyway, then they finally said, and it's wooden. I said, well, so what? And they said, wooden houses don't last. I said, I just come from Newport. I've been living in a 400-year-old wooden house. What are you on about? So, and I still live in that house. I never moved.
Really?
Yeah.
Since 80...
70, I bought that house in 76.
Wow.
Yeah, so I still live there, just around that corner. Yeah. We've
All
changed
the millions you made from the America's Cup.
I didn't make any millions. You seem to forget, we were in the Corinthian days.
Yes.
We got paid $10 a day and accommodation in the crew house. And even in 1983, 2 pairs of shorts, 4 T-shirts, and a set of oilskins. Buy your own sea boots. Oh, gloves. They gave you gloves as well. We had to buy our own caps. I remember that.
I was talking to Stuart yesterday over at Royal Perth. And we were just talking about it. Really, I mean, you race with one goal in mind. It wasn't for the money. It was just to win.
No, it was purely national thing. Like Well,
It's like the Olympics.
yeah, it was you couldn't consider that you'd race for any other country. It was an Australian crew with Australian on it. Although having said that, in 1977 we broke all the rules and had an American tactician, a guy called Andy Rose.
Oh.
And that actually changed all the next. That was in 1980. I remember that. One of them. I think it was Nancy. Look at that bloody thing.
Oh, yeah.
But no, it was just the honour of doing it. To race in the America's Cup. What a thing to do. And
Stuart was telling me in '74 how Royal Perth Yacht Club. However they videoed, I can't believe they videoed somehow over to New York Yacht Club and had that hole in the floor and asked how big of the screws. That way they were coming to take the trophy. Just heading into any of your attempts, I mean, you must have believed that you were going to win. I mean, otherwise, how do you have the passion?
Right, it's a very good question.
Did you believe that you were going to win every time, or just did you believe you were going to win in '83 more than the other races?
Yes. Did we think we were going to win the other ones? '74 we were all new boys and what the hell, and I didn't know. I guess we didn't know what was coming, and the big deal was to beat the French, so we could actually get into the America's Cup. But we learnt then, and I think maybe we knew even before we went, that the American defenders had an aura about them. They were skippered by guys, Ted Hood of Hood Sails and Lowell North of North Sails. They were called Courageous and Freedom and Liberty and Valiant. They were always immaculate, beautiful, glorious, usually white boats with gold stripes. The sails looked like they were carved out of alabaster. Their crew looked like college boys with perfect teeth, and their girls all had lovely tits. And the whole thing, they just had this aura. Yeah. And you almost had to. It was almost an affront to think you could beat them. So that was sort of like '74, and again in '77 was a different bet, because '77 was against Ted Turner, and we knew Ted. We'd been involved with Ted and racing against Ted since 1971, when he had American Eagle, which was an ex-defender that he'd converted into an ocean racing boat. And we bumped into him when we were doing the Admiral's Cup in Cowes in '71. And Bondi and he got on really got on well. And we were the only two real big boats, even like 57-foot big boat. It was in 1971. We were the two big boats. We had these amazing races in Cowes Week, and big bets between Bondi and Ted, and big parties, and we got to know all the guys very well. So by the time Ted got to do '77, we knew half the guys on the crew, and I mean, can you believe it? Before we went out to race, in '77 we had built the three other defenders, challengers. Before we went out to race, the day before, it wasn't, it was 2 days before, it wasn't the actual eve of. Ted organised and Alan organised a big crew lunch at Christie's.
Oh, jeez.
So we all went to Christie's, both the crews.
Yeah.
Had this massive, bloody huge party, lunch party.
You're struggling.
And they all had their Rolex watches on. Because you always used to get a Rolex watch if you got to defend or challenge. And Bondi was having an argument with him. He wanted all of our team to get a Rolex watch, and they said, no, just the 11 guys on the boat. He said, no way. So he was doing a sort of, where you've already advertised, but we're not doing it. And they ended up coming up with a deal. They hadn't done the deal then. And all the American crews were going, oh, what's the time, chink? And it was a minute rain. So then we went off but getting back to your question, 80?
You dropped your water.
Oh, gee, thanks, Bob.
I got you.
It's all right.
Someone's got to look after me. So 80 we went there because Bondi was always a rich, poor, rich.
Were you learning from each race? So it's like playing whatever sport you have.
Yeah.
The first time you play them, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
And then you learn from every single battle.
And it's not just so much about learning to sail and learning those waters. It's about learning how to go